In our last video, I showed you how to import the text file of a book that you were able to download from Gutenberg.org and then to bring that file into Microsoft Word. I also showed you how to use the Home and End key in order to move to, for instance, the start of a line or go to the end of the line. Just using Home takes you to the beginning of the line, and then pressing on the End key moves you to the end of that line. But you can also use Control Home, and it jumps to the top of a document, and Control End takes you to the very bottom of a document. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to use the Home and End keys again, but this time we'll be using Control Shift End. And what I want to do, you can see in the book that you've downloaded from Gutenberg that there is some preliminary information, and you might want to save this or use it, but you don't have to. In fact, what we're going to try to do is just use the text only that Charles Dickens himself wrote. And that is the text that begins here on this first line where it says A Christmas Carol in prose and so on. I'm going to click right here where it says Christmas Carol and press the Home key. And by pressing Home, I jump to the start of that line. And then I'm going to hold down Control and Shift and press Home. And notice what happens. That from the place where the insertion point was, which in this case was right before the letter A in A Christmas Carol, and then when I hold down Control Shift and press Home, it selects everything from the insertion point to the top of the document. So just like with Control Home, it moves you to the top of the document. Control Shift Home will select everything from wherever that insertion point is to the top of the document. And at this point, I can just press Delete, and that is deleted. Now I want to do the same thing at the bottom of this book. The question though is, where is the bottom of the book? Well, I'm going to hit Control and End, jump to the bottom down here, way down at the bottom. Looks like I was playing around in that last video. So I'll hit the backspace here a few times. Get right back up here, Control S to save that. Now I'm going to scroll up and we're going to see where the last line in that book is. There's a whole bunch of information that some of it you probably could read and it would help you a lot. But notice that there is a place here where it says End of the Project Gutenberg book, and that's where we can delete. Also, I happen to know, since I've read this book a few times and listened to it and even watched all the episodes on television, that the book ends where Tiny Tim says, God bless us, everyone. And so I could have just done a search for that and found the end of that line. But if you're working in a book where you may not really know what the last words in the book are, then you could just search for where it says the end of the Gutenberg project, just like we found at the very beginning of the document that says that this was the beginning of the Gutenberg project. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right up here after the exclamation mark where Tiny Tim says, God bless us everyone. I'm going to click right at the end of that line. And the insertion point now is right there after that exclamation mark. I'm going to press and hold down the Control and Shift and tap on the End key. And this does exactly like the Control Shift Home key does, except in reverse. So if I scroll up, what you're going to see is that from the place where the insertion point was, which was right at the end of Tiny Tim saying, God bless us everyone, and then I place that insertion point right here at the end of the exclamation mark, then Control Shift End jumped me from that location and it selected everything all the way down through the end of the book. So now if I press Delete it deletes all of that information at the end that I really don't want for the purposes of these tutorials on how to use the editing features of Microsoft Word. I don't need those features. I don't need that front matter or the end matter at the end of that book that we downloaded. So I just selected them and deleted them, but I did it quickly using CTRL Shift Home and CTRL Shift End, and I'm left now only with the text of the book. So once again, I'm going to Control Home, go to the very top of the document, and at this point I'm going to press Control S to save the document, and now that document is saved. Be careful whenever you use Control Shift End and Control Shift Home, because for instance, if I were somewhere down in this paragraph in chapter 1, Dickens calls them staves instead of chapters, but they're actually just chapters. And it starts off here, Marley was dead to begin with. And if I were down here in this in this paragraph somewhere, if I hit Control Shift Home, then it would select everything from where I had that insertion point. And you can see here that it not only would delete part of the first paragraph, it would delete the table of contents, it would delete the preface, it would delete the author's name, and it would even delete about half of the word Scrooge in this case. So be very careful with where you hit Control Shift Home or Control Shift End, and make sure that what you have selected is something that you actually want to delete before you move on.